everybody, how's it going? I have a paper again, so you might hear rattling because it's really windy, so I can't control it as good, I'm sorry. But I needed paper for this one because today's mindful message is how to write a good speech. I don't care what the event that you're writing a speech for, whether it's a graduation or a wedding or a retirement speech, a eulogy, maybe you're inducting something, whatever you need to write a speech for. And just to know this, in case one day you ever have to write a speech, I'm going to dumb this down because I think people overcomplicate writing and they make it far more, as I said, complicated than needed, and then they get choked up and they think they can't do it. But writing is actually pretty easy once you get the format of it. That's why when we go to school, we learn about essays, the intro, the body, and the conclusion. The speech is just like that. So the first thing you want to do is do your research, even if this is about you or a family member. I go with the golden rule of 3 when you're writing a speech. You want 3 meaty facts, 3 talking points, and I made up this fake speech that I'm about to read to you. I'm going to start with the introduction as if you've already done the research and you know what the 3 points are. But to give you an example, I made up 3 fake points. This is not real. So basically, I made up this Bobby guy, survived 2 tours of service. So war service was a big part of this person's life. And while they were at war, they welcomed children. So I'm going to talk about... That's so ridiculous. This is why people get so mad at bikers. Like, you're home now. This isn't a street. This is like where people live. They just always got to show off. People with bikes have I needed a show-off problem around here. And I'm not talking about like motorcycles, like crotch rackets. There's a very big difference between a motorcycle rider and a fucking crotch racket person. It's annoying. New York is too small to be acting like that. I'm gonna run somebody over. We just had someone die literally yesterday that got hit. People act like dicks. I just think that's distasteful when we just had a death for getting hit by people because they can't open their eyes to pedestrians. Bikers being a majority of the problem, at least in my area. Side note. So I'm going to say Bobby war service is 1 point. This is a eulogy or an induct. Like if somebody's being inducted and I'm talking about their life. Point number 1, war service. Did 2 tours, find out a little bit of detail about that. Number 2, Bobby spent his life keeping his community safe while being his police chief. While being its police chief was talking point number 2. So this person went to war, they come home, they become a police officer, slowly work up to police chief. I'm going to talk about their service to the community. Talking point number 2. And then the last one, actually, I skipped the first one. Bobby surviving 2 tours was the second talking point. The first talking point was Bobby went to Yale on a scholarship and was the first to graduate college at all in his family. That's what I'm opening with. Sorry, I wrote this a few days ago. But those are 3 really good talking points because it really talks about the person's character and what they did in their life. So whatever you're talking about, you want to make sure those 3 things are meaty and juicy and do your research. So basically the intro is introducing the person or thing or whatever you're talking about to the rest of the room. You're not getting into much. I think people put a lot of pressure to be funny here and make jokes. And I don't think you should aim for the jokes. If they work out, great. But really, you just want to come across what you're talking about. So let me show you how I did the intro for this one. Bobby Bogart was born with the odds stacked against him. You want a first sentence that hooks the room. that makes you fall in love with the thing or the person right away, or all right, I want to hear this story. You really want to come in with a punch with your first sentence, something captivating that grabs attention. You're like, all right, this guy has the odds stacked against him. I'm listening. It gets people's attention. His father, a miner, his mother, a housewife with 7 kids. Going to college was not in the cards at that time for a person like Bobby Bogart. It kind of explained where they come from, the background a little bit, make people have an attachment to the thing or the person, invest them emotionally. However, Bobby was special, and before he finished high school, he had broke several academic records. He was granted a full ride to Yale University, the first man in his family not to go down in a mine, and the first in his town to not go to community college. He was a legend at 18, and that's just the beginning of his journey. So I introduced a little bit about Yale, about where he came from. I acknowledged that he was special. Not everybody's going to have a juicy story. It's sometimes tragic, but painting the picture of where something originated is always a good place to start. So now we're talking about the meat of the speech. This is where you really want to dig into those 2 other talking points. I like to put the first one in the intro, but you don't have to. You could talk just basically about where they're from and then get into the talking points. But the meat of the speech is those points that you already picked out. So let me show you how I did that. I call this the middle bit and the most important. Bobby finished college when the world had declared war on Vietnam. Like his brother, he was called to serve. He met his wife during his first tour on leave in Florida. So I'm introducing another big part of his life, which is now you're explaining the time period that this person was associated with. They went to war. He's at tour already. You don't have to explain that he went to boot camp and all that. You're like, okay, his first tour. So that explains in itself that he had multiple tours. And you introduce his wife, which is a big part of his story as well. He said he took one look at her. This is where you want to try to get like specific quotes or words from the person just to make it more touching, especially when you're talking about their spouse or their children or something that they built. But anyway, as soon as he saw her, he knew he met his wife. They married 2 short weeks after meeting. They wrote every week while he was away, and despite being pregnant, his wife Betty worked full-time at the phone book company. So you're acknowledging that, you know, all right, he's got a baby on the way, he's got a family, he's got a hard-working woman, a support system, and he's away at war, hooking people even more to their story. His wife Betty worked at the phone book company. When he returned from war, they had 2 sons. He needed a job and decided to join the police force. So now I'm introducing the last bit of those talking points. By the time he made it to first lieutenant, he had 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. So now you're introducing him as a parent, talking more about his life, hooking him even more. He worked hard to clean up the streets for his children, and he earned support and respect from the people who were tired of gangsters controlling their town. So now you're showing him as the hero he was. Basically, it goes on and on, but the conclusion, I want to get to this. Let me see how. Basically, it goes on to say that his wife passed away, and I painted the picture that he died from a broken heart just 2 short weeks after she passed because they, married, and this is a fictional thing, and I wanted to be cute. But the conclusion is, that's the reaction you want. Wrap it up sweet, wrap it up nice. Not only talk about the last of their accomplishments and the last bit of whatever they did or their life, but what are they remembered for, or what will they be remembered for? How did they move you, or why did this come from you? Like, where did the idea come from would be a good way to end.